I am a patient of PRMA, and I am a breast cancer conqueror. I don't use the word survivor because I didn't survived it, I conquered it. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in the left in 2012. I found out the Monday after Mother's Day. Had the biopsy right before that, and so went through all Mother's Day weekend just kind of waiting to see what the results were, and it did come back that it was breast cancer. And the multitude of emotions and feelings and fears and doubts, you name it, I experienced it. I had lost my mom to colon cancer, and so the first thing that I thought was, okay, let me just start getting my plans together. And I do a lot of research, but I said I am not going on Google, I'm not going to go on Bing, I don't want to know anything about it, but I want to talk to women and families, and I want my husband to talk to husbands that have gone through this, and I want to know every option that there was. So to make a long story short, I looked at every option, I looked at every breast of every option that I could make my, basically I could make a qualified decision of what I wanted to do. And it was beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is what I needed to do. And so I had the deep flap reconstruction, so I had the radical mastectomy. I had them both taken off. At that particular point, we did not know if it had spread or not, but it had not spread, thank the Lord. And so I said, I don't want to risk it. I don't want to worry about it anymore. And I'm going to go ahead and go the most radical that I can, as long as insurance will take care of it. And of course, they did, and Dr. Ledoux was my doctor who performed the deep flap reconstruction. And I'm thrilled. I'm just thrilled beyond measure. In fact, I came back here for something and ended up, I came with a gal that I had met who is a patient, and she wanted to see exactly how it was, and he kind of looked over at me like, you want to show her? Sure. And the funny part about it is my husband teases, he says, you show your boobs now to more people. I was just like, here you go. And he even said, I did a really good job on you. Thank you. So anyway, I can relate except for the part of chemo. But I've walked that journey with so many friends and so many family members that I'm very passionate about that. I didn't go through it, and I don't know those inner emotions and those feelings that you have, but the anxieties, I've walked that. And we're talking today, when I talked with Courtney, about how to involve your family in your journey, whether it's you're just getting ready to go through your procedure, or you're in the middle of it, or you're like us, 3-4 years out from it. How do you still involve your family? And how many of you are moms? Is everybody a mom in here, or an aunt, or a grandma? How many of you are friends? Do you have friends? Oh. You say, boy, we need to really talk. Well, let me just read you something. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself real quickly here in a minute, but I found this today and I thought this was really, really cute. But it said things that moms should never say. Okay? So some of you might relate to this. How on earth can you see the TV sitting so far back? Yes, I used to skip school too, a lot. How about this one? Just leave on all of the lights. It makes the house look so cheery. Have you said any of these to any of your kids? How about this one? Let me smell your shirt. Oh yeah, I think it's good for another week. How about this one? Go ahead and keep that stray dog, honey. I'll be glad to feed him and walk him every day. Right? Well, if Timmy's mom says it's okay, then it's good with me. How about this one? The curfew is just a general time to shoot for. It's not like I'm running a prison around here or anything. Take your time coming home. I've got twins that are 25 and a 15-year-old, and they would love for me to say that. Won't ever happen. How about this one? I don't have a tissue with me. Use your sleeve. And then I thought this one was cute. Don't bother wearing a jacket. The wind chill is bound to improve. Many times as parents, we have kids that are involved in our lives, and we're so used to mothering them ourselves, or we've got siblings. Maybe we're the older sibling of some, and we've got younger siblings as a part. All of them walk this journey with you. You don't walk it alone, but they walk through it in a different sense. And I experienced that when I walked the journey with my mom with colon cancer. And so then when I went through the breast cancer, it was completely different, a completely different experience. Quickly, just a little bit about me. I'm married. My husband's name is Phil, and we've been married 32 years. I am not from San Antonio originally, born and raised in New Zealand. Moved here when I was 19 years old. Lost the accent when I moved to Oklahoma, and after we got married, that's the only accent I heard was his from California, and so kept the, I lost my New Zealand accent, but they say if I get tired or if I get angry, it comes right back. We have 3 daughters. We have twins that are 25, and they're kind of on the 8-year, 4-year plan of college, but I'm so proud of them because they'll graduate debt-free in a degree that they want. So I'm very, very proud of them. And then we have a 15-year-old who was what we thought was the flu. And she's been the best case of the flu I have ever had. And she's just the delight of our life, as are the twins. And we have 2 dogs. We just adopted a puppy, so we're real thrilled. But we are a very active family. I work in radio. I've been with this group of radio stations. There's 4 radio stations I work at. And I've been there for about 13 years, and before that, I managed 5 large health centers for Humana healthcare plans. And when Humana said, oh, we can't have medical offices, we thought to only stick with insurance. And they started, I helped close down Women and Children's Hospital, and then we opened up the health centers and then stuck with them until we closed those down. So a lot of experience in dealing with people, plus my husband's a pastor. And so when I've said, I haven't walked the cancer, but I have sat in the chair right next to someone who's had treatment, has been there all day with them, walked that with them. And I think it's very important that we understand, if we're going through it ourselves, how to get our families involved, how to get our friends involved, and then how we, once we've come to the other side of it, like us that are 3 years out, how we can then be available for people like yourself and how we can walk others through it. The other part of it is educating people. I have to tell you, when I got the word out, I kept it very quiet when I found out that I had breast cancer, because my first thing was, okay, I've been there for everybody else, and I've got this. I can take care of it. And I would not tell anybody. I didn't want anybody to know, including my children. And that was the worst thing out, because I did not involve them in the very beginning stages, and they knew that something was wrong with Mom, especially my older 2. They knew that something was going on, and how Mom and Dad would always have these quick little meetings off where we'd go and talk privately, or they'd see me crying. And so finally, it hit me upside the head. You know what? Family, and we are a unit, and we need to be involved, and they need to walk with me every step of this, because they are going to be my strength. They're going to be my joy. They're going to be my rock as I go through this. And a lot of people don't have that to glean from. And that's where you need to find friends that will be that rock. There's another patient, and I'll leave her nameless, that's from here, and I've walked with her in her journey, and she's single and has no family. But her friendship base that have just bonded around her has just been incredible, that have walked with her. One of the things that I found, especially at the very beginning stages, that I got involved with my family, and this is very important for you to understand, but it's also, if you're going through this for your family, that it isn't a secret. Don't keep it a secret. Involve your entire family, even when you're going through things. Let them see you cry. Let them see that you are scared. Let them see that you are like, okay, this was wrong. I went undiagnosed for a year. Let them know how you feel. Let them ask questions. It's so important that people ask questions. And this is even friends, co-workers. Let them ask those questions. But especially when it comes down to breast cancer, A lot of people don't know how to really talk to you about it because that's a very personal part. This is, you know, it's not like you've got an ingrown toenail. You're dealing with a very important part of your womanhood. And a lot of people don't know what to ask. For your family, invite them to go to a doctor's appointment. So what you're doing here with your sister is very, very important. Go to these doctor appointments. Invite your family. How old are your children?
I have a 12-year-old son.
Okay. Has he even asked to come and be involved, or how involved have you had him in this process?
I tell him, well, in the beginning I did tell him, you know, I'm going to be going to a lot of doctor's appointments, and, you know, eventually I'll have surgery. I kind of guided him a little bit throughout the way. Now it's kind of, he just really just asks how I'm doing. You know, other than that, he knows when I have chemo. He knows when I don't feel good. But he's never been to an appointment with me.
Do you work?
Yes.
How have your coworkers been?
Good. I mean, I, you know, have to talk about it every day because I'm a hairdresser, so my clients ask me. You know, they're kind of involved in the whole process.
Sure.
Yeah. So I end up talking about it a lot. Just people wanting to know how I'm doing and how my treatments are going.
Good. How about for you? Do you have any children that?
I do. I have a son who just finished his freshman year at A&M.
Oh.
And I hadn't seen him in a while since I had lost my hair. And he came home Friday. And I had told my husband, I don't think I'm going to let him see me without a cap on or a hat on. So the first 2 days he was there, I wore a scarf because I didn't want him to have this memory of his mother without hair. And by the third day, I was like, I'm sorry, but this is driving me up the wall. I got to take this off at home. And I went to him and I said, look, I'm really uncomfortable having to wear something on my head at home, and I just wanted to spare him. He's like, Mom, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. So, you know, I said, well, just get prepared. And so I took it off, and, you know, he was fine. What's for dinner? I mean,
Good.
He was great about it.
Good.
You know, I would say my experience so far has been, I have been embraced by every friend, every family member. I belong to a church. I have just been enveloped by people. The biggest thing for me is I was somebody who had great boobs, and big boobs. And now I have nothing, and I have a second round of reconstruction. And I had the deep flap, so I have a scar that runs from here to here. And both my breasts are scarred. The hardest thing for me is with my husband. And he says, you know what? So long as you don't lose your butt, I'm good.
That's awesome.
But I still feel like I look like Frankenstein. So, and I see the pictures online, and I have the same problem that you had with, they told me to put on 10 pounds before my surgery. And now I'm having, you know, the good thing is like you're pregnant because I get to eat whatever I want. So the second round of surgery, they'll have some fat that they can harvest. But I'm still afraid of what they're going to look like when they're finished. So for me, that's the biggest struggle is.
And to hear his response, that is so encouraging.
Oh, he's wonderful.
Yeah, that's encouraging. There have been some friends that went through this even before I had mine, that the husbands were not that way. They took it as if their wives were their trophy, and when their trophy got a little dinged up, it was not the trophy anymore. And that's really, really sad. But there are individuals that have those kind of scenarios in their home, and so if you know of someone that is going through this that might not have that that solid base of family to support them as they go through it, like yourself, like I had, like I'm sure most of you have had in here. If it's not a spouse, then it's a family member, a sister, or a child. It's very, very important, because I think your self-esteem is the biggest hurdle to get over. We may look at each other and see scars. I actually look at the scar that I have from here to here, and I just basically think, okay, so I was the woman to a magician who had the guillotine that came down and he missed, right? But I look at these as scars of victory for me, because if I didn't have those scars, I probably wouldn't be here today. I don't know how advanced it would have been, but I don't know. But these are my scars of victory, and my husband took the exact same approach. He was extremely scared because he lost his mom to breast cancer. And so he was extremely scared for me, but he said, I don't care if you don't even get reconstruction. I just want you. I don't care about the scars. And I think it's us that have to get over that a lot. We're the ones that have the harder time with it than what our spouses do. With my kids, and let me just kind of give you a little insight. For those, you were here when I was coming, right, for my appointment?
I think so, yes.
I think you may have just started. It was a family affair, and my family, even at that point she was 12, she's now 15, she sat there in that area and watched it, and she said, Mom, I could perform the surgery, because she watched the video. But she wanted to come in. Amy was the nurse at that particular point for Dr. Ledoux, and it was Jackie and Christina that was working back there. But we just became family, and if the girls asked me if they wanted to come to an appointment, I said, absolutely, let's go. So I just encouraged them to be a part and ask whatever questions that they wanted to ask. Once I got past my point of going, okay, I got to suck up my pride and realize I'm going to need help. Instead of me being there for everybody else, I need their help. And these were just a few of the things, and this might be helpful for you, or if others, maybe your son may want to ask. But I let them be involved. For my older two, they stayed in the hospital with me. My younger one, she was too young to stay in the hospital, but she did my drains, and she came up here and she watched how Amy did it, and she actually did my drains a couple of times. She made this fancy little lanyard for me to hook my drains onto. I didn't know that there was special pillows, so she found this cute little heart-shaped pillow that she had on her bed that she gave me to take to the hospital to hold on to, which of course it turned out to be wonderful because I just kind of propped myself up. She even made fun of the fact that I was wearing a Mrs. Doubtfire bra. And so she brought the DVD up and we watched it in the hospital. I let them organize the house for me when I got home. And my husband was right there in the middle of it with them. They rearranged things. They made sure that things were taken care of at the house. They organized food. And of course with younger kids, if you've got younger ones, social media is so huge with the younger ones. They were the communication to the people outside of our family. And of course, because I'm from New Zealand, I've got family across the ocean that wanted to be kept informed. So they kept them informed that way. I let them help pack my bags. At the hospital up at Methodist, we ended up being in the big room in the very back because, again, my husband's a pastor and we've been on staff at a very prominent church here in San Antonio. We have a lot of friends that decided to come and visit us. So the next thing we know, we're setting up food, and my girls are the hostess with the mostest, and they're coordinating people when they came in and when they came out. It made them feel like they were helping their mom and walking through that journey. And they didn't have those questions that they really wanted to ask, but they went ahead and asked them because I involved them. Things that normally mom would do, I let them do it. And even though it was hard not to go, oh, maybe, let's not do it that way, it didn't matter. They just felt like they were doing something for me. I let them tell my story to friends and visitors that came up. When they'd say, well, so what happened? Or even before my surgery, so tell me how this came and what are you doing? If somebody came over to the house, I let them tell the story because from that, I heard how they were feeling about the whole thing. I heard when they were scared. I heard when they had doubts. I just heard their perception of the entire thing. And I even heard them going, I'm scared for ourselves. We've got 3 daughters. Now, I'm not bright positive, so that's a good thing. But of course, when you've got such a family history on both sides of the family, and then your mom gets it, of course they had the questions. And they do have the questions. And we just made sure that when they went to the oncologist with me, they asked those questions. I let them have a normal life. And this is probably something very important for those of you that are still going through it. Let your kids have that normal life. Let your son go and do what he needs to. And he might feel a little guilty for taking off and not being there for mom, but let him have a normal life and be involved in his life as much as your health will allow you to do it. I got out of the hospital on Tuesday, excuse me. I had the procedure on a Wednesday, got out on a Tuesday, and that next Saturday I went to my youngest's volleyball game. That was the last thing I wanted to do. I'm walking with my Mrs. Doubtfire. I've got that horrendous, they've got to figure out what to do with that tummy binder thing. That's just the worst. I'm sorry. I can deal with the bra. But the tummy thing, no. But I just basically lock, stock, and barrel went, was tired, didn't want to have to deal with it, but I actually just sat there and enjoyed seeing her, feeling enjoyed that mom was with her and was being there. So let your family have a normal life. Do you have children?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, that's my other sister.
I'm sorry.
I have a 33-year-old daughter.
Okay.
And so she, of course, is married, doesn't live at the house. But I didn't tell her. I only told this sister and my husband when I was going through everything, because I didn't want to tell anybody until I was actually diagnosed, because it was during the holidays. And I didn't, want to mess anything up. My daughter's a nurse, so once I told her, she goes with me to the chemos.
Awesome.
She's been going with me to the chemos. My sister, of course, all of them, my whole family participates. So everybody has. I haven't hidden anything. And once I let everybody know, I felt so much better.
Right.
It made me feel relieved.
Right.
And she also found out, once she let other people know, how many other people know somebody who has had it and were able to share their experience, even a niece or a cousin of ours, a young cousin of ours.
That I never would have thought that she had. And so it was amazing.
Have you found, for all of you that, and you haven't had your reconstruction yet?
I had the first round.
Okay.
I'm scheduled for the second round in August.
Okay. So you had, what kind of procedure, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I had a double mastectomy, and then they did the deep flap.
Okay. All right. Good. Oh, wait till round 2.
If I can give you a little bit of information, I had many surgeries, and some of the scars are totally gone. You cannot see it at all.
Oh, yeah.
I had several foot surgeries. You cannot possibly tell that I had the surgery. So most of the scars eventually will go away.
Everything
So
just takes
don't worry
time.
about that scar. Right now I have a scar from one side of my back to the other side of my back. And it's getting much lighter. I look at it, it's not so big like before. It just takes time.
And your second stage 2 is where they do those scar revisions. So they go in and it's magic.
Oh, it is magic.
It's magic.
And then did you have nipple sparing? Or
I had nipple sparing on the left,
On the left.
but on the right, everything's.
So once everything is completely done, like with your tattooing or the reconstruction of the nipple, it does tend to take it completes the look.
Mm-hmm.
So one day at a time, but you will get there. Especially like she said, your skin tone helps you a lot. Your complexion, you guys tend to heal very well.
I can't see the scars on my breast at all. They have completely disappeared. I see the one on the stomach, but that's okay. What woman who hasn't had a C-section has that? And hey, I got a tummy tuck, and that's my proof right there. Right? So, that's a good scar, but the other ones, yeah. mean, I don't see them. I know that, if I happen to go to a retreat or something and I'm walking from the shower or whatever and my towel dropped, nobody would really necessarily know. They wouldn't. The staff here will work miracles. The physicians will work miracles. But it's the support staff that will walk you through after you have that phase 2 of how to take care of it and how to treat it. If you just follow it to the T.
Well, I have to say that I absolutely love Gina. I love her.
She's a ball of fire, isn't she? She's joy.
Isn't it funny how they just become part of your family, but we don't do anything for them on their birthday or Christmas? How shame of us, right?
No. And we have a scar cream too. So after you've healed from your second
Right.
stage, I think she's probably told you about the invisible.
I didn't know about that.
Dr. Crisopolo has a scar cream
And he developed it.
that he developed, yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get that back in our day. I know, like the old school meeting, right? In fact, I went to go see one gal that was here not too long, and I'm like, why do you look like E.T.? Why do you have that blue light shining out from underneath? I never had that. And I'm like, wait a minute. You mean I did the Doppler and did the whole 9 yards, but it was kind of cute just to see how many things have advanced just in 3 years. So, I mean, it's continually evolving. The one thing that will never change, and that is the word cancer. There's so many things that come up when you hear that word cancer, and especially for your kids. I read this and I thought it was so important just to read it out. It said, among the many difficult questions that parents face when a family member is diagnosed with cancer, it is, how and what do I tell my children? Fearful that they may be upset or worried, especially if they're youngsters or teenagers, some parents withhold the news. That was me. But even at a very young age, children can sense that something is wrong. And if you're older and you've got older kids, if you've got nieces or nephews or kids in the neighborhood, they know. If you've not told the truth, they may imagine that things are worse than they really are, or even that they themselves have been a cause of the problem. If a family member has cancer or is concerned about someone else with cancer, children often sense that something is wrong, even if they don't know what it is. They hear nowadays in society the word cancer, and the first thing, when I asked my now 15-year-old, what was the first thing that you thought of when mommy and daddy told you that mommy had cancer? And she said, I thought you were going to die. And for some kids, that's the first thing they think, is that you're going to die. And did you know that 13.7 million cancer survivors are living in the United States now? 13.7 million, and I'm one of those. And you're one of those, and you're one of those, and you, and you, and you, and you, and all of us. We're part of that. Thank God we've been born and raised in this generation. Just think what our kids and our grandkids will have. I mean, it will probably be a day surgery and they're out and off and gone by the time that it comes around. It says, although it may be challenging talking with your children or loved ones about a cancer diagnosis in words, they can understand it better than hiding it. Avoiding the topic may lead to believe that the situation is worse than what it is and create feelings of confusion and fear. Remember that your loved ones may overhear conversations between adults and worry more, especially if they feel that the news is being withheld from them. As you talk to your children or your loved ones, listen to their concerns and answer their questions to the best of your ability. So when you've got questions, when it's your sister that's going through it, ask and answer them. Tell your loved ones, tell your kids about your illness. Tell them about those fears. Tell them, look, I just got done with my 6th round of chemo. Talk to him about what it is that you experienced. Let him know. He may act like he's not interested, but deep down I'm sure he's wanting to know. Practice your explanation in advance. So especially if you're going to be giving the news, first of all, or if you know someone who's getting ready to give the news, practice what you're going to say. Because it's good, because you're going to become emotional and you're going to lose it, and that's all right. When I ended up telling our daughters, I started off and then I lost it, and then my husband picked up and then he lost it, and then I picked back up, and we just kind of went around and we got it done. Address feelings of guilt. Sometimes, and I had this huge feeling of guilt because of this, my mom having cancer. I felt guilty that, okay, I've got it, and now what's this going to do for my daughters? Is this going to put fear in them? And I felt guilty that I had it. And then, of course, my husband felt guilty because his mom died of breast cancer, and it was like, okay, here we go. But you've got to excuse that. Cancer just doesn't pick individuals. It happens. Sometimes it's because of your genetics. Sometimes it's not. You can't feel guilty thinking, okay, well, I drank too much coffee and that's why I got breast cancer. In fact, they're finding that coffee helps now. So
I think it's the wine.
One thing that I think is very important, and especially as you're going through this with the chemo and as you're in the hospital, if there's younger ones coming around, it's not contagious. They can't catch it. If you sneeze, they can't catch it. They can't hurt you. Let them know that this is something that you're dealing with. Try to balance optimism with realism. Be optimistic, but be real about it too. Look, mom's going to be fine, but for the next 6 months, I'm probably going to have some rough times. I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be tired, especially if you go through chemo. I might be moody. I may change my moods. I don't know what I'm getting ready to go through. But as I face that, tell me. And that was one thing that I had told my husband. I said, I'm sure at different times I'm going to either retract to myself or I'm not going to say something. But if you notice that I'm not acting the way that you know I should act, tell me. Because I might not understand what I'm saying or doing, and it's not because of any medication. I just didn't know what I was getting ready to do and walk myself through. Keep in touch with close friends and family members and let them encourage you the way that they want to. Because for some, what is the first thing? Okay, so when you got your diagnosis, who was the first person that you called? Besides your whomever?
I don't remember. I think it might have been my sister.
Okay. And what was her first words?
I can't believe it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What's something else that you hear often when you tell someone, I've got cancer?
People say, oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I got to the point where when I was sitting at the oncologist's office, I about lost it. And I'm so thankful that this is not doom and gloom in here. I'm so thankful that it is, you give the environment where there is life. But I got so angry when I went to my oncologist's office and I saw estate planning. I saw, and I didn't know if I was going to have chemo. I did not want to see what hat I needed to buy and what wig I could get. I didn't want to know all of that. And if I heard one more time, I am so sorry. I said, I'm not sorry. I'm glad that I found this out now, so that way I can address it and get it out of my system. But I ended up saying to the oncologist's office, I said, whatever you do, don't tell people you're sorry. And they went, well, why would you say that? Because most of the time, they're not sorry that they found it and that they discovered it, because they're now going to do everything that they can to make sure that they're around. So be attuned to what you say and what, especially if you're walking with someone who's going through it, what you say and how you say that to the individual. If you're going through treatments, let your kids come to the treatment. Like you took off your scarf and you let your son see how you looked. He sees mom from here.
Well, one of the things that I think is interesting to think about, you have a son and I have a son and you have 3 daughters.
Mm-hmm.
He's my only child and he thinks like a male. And so he was very intellectual in processing when I told him what was wrong. I was still emotional. And first thing he wanted to know was, are you going to die? And I said, we're going to do everything possible that I'm not going to die. And so based on his maleness and how he took it, he was very clinical. He wasn't emotional about it. That was in February. He went on a trip, spring break, with some friends from school. And one of the friends that he had gone to high school with, he was telling this friend about me having cancer. And this friend's mother had had cancer. And my son's name is Henry. And Henry and David talked. And Henry asked him a million questions and got all this information from someone other than me, because that's the way he needed to get it. So he called me and said, I talked to David, and his mom went through the same thing, and he told me this, and he told me that, and I was like, wow, how come you didn't ask me those questions? And he goes, because I didn't want to have you think it was a burden. I was like, oh my gosh. So he needed to talk about it. And I think girls are much more likely to be able to process emotion with their mothers more so than boys.
That's true.
So if he has somebody that he can talk to, because I thought everything was fine. And
I think
he's 20. So.
The open communication is key, especially when he came back and said, I found out this and I found out that, to let them know, look, it's okay to ask me any question that you want. It's not going to bother me, and I will tell you everything that I know. With daughters, they automatically put themselves in your shoes. Is this going to happen to me?
And after that, he would ask me question after question after question. So.
And that's healing, and that's therapeutic. Yeah. That's very therapeutic. How involved has your son wanted to be? Has he wanted to be involved at all in any of this?
I just act normal at home. I pretty much, he plays baseball, so we're at the ball field almost every other weekend with tournaments, and I just try to keep things as normal as possible for him.
Good.
He knows when I don't feel good, and he's just a huge help. He'll ask me, can I get you anything? How do you feel today, Mama? He'll ask, but he's 12, so.
And it's okay to still want to be the mom that helps, even when you're not feeling good. Sometimes that's just good too. And I'm sure you guys experienced that as you were recuperating. Sometimes you've just got to feel like, I'm normal, even though you're walking around with this horrendous, I promise you, if they can figure something else out about that, I'm going to be whistling Dixie. Those things, as you're walking around with that and all of the contractions, and you've got all of these drains hanging off of you, and you feel like you're just this monster that's just been totally cut up, and am I ever going to feel normal again? Sometimes it's good to just do the things to make us feel normal again. Baking or cooking or going to the gym or going to the movies with your kids or your friends or your girlfriends or whatever it is that you were doing before. You can do that as long as it's not physically limiting you based on what your doctor and the staff says. Do it. Feel normal. I think the biggest thing, and in fact, one of the last things that we did after my treatments was my husband came in here and recorded a video talking to husbands. And I heard things from him that I didn't even know he was experiencing. When we're sitting in there, of course, I'm over there blubbering my eyes out, and he's trying to record this video. But it was so important. It says patients may not be able to fill all the roles that they've filled in the past when they're going through cancer. Understand the challenges associated with cancer survivorship, and that it has become increasingly important, and even and more people live beyond cancer treatment, but understanding your limitations while you're going through it. The other thing, if you're married, it's couple identity. While the individual has viewed themselves as independent one from another, the cancer experience, their relationship become a crucial part of who they are in the cancer diagnosis and how you feel. You might feel one way before the procedure, and then depending on how your relationship is with your spouse, of how you'll feel afterwards. But it is a couple experience, and that was the one thing with my husband is he walked with me every stage. In fact, I think he became part and parcel of these hallways and, oh, I hear Amy, I'll go get it. Okay, it's in this cabinet and let's grab this and we'll do, I mean, he was involved in it and he needed to be and he wanted to be. But he needed to know that he was carrying me and it was strong and he was walking me through it, but then I let him be weak as well. It says your spouse or your partner is likely to feel the greatest impact from your diagnosis. It's natural for them to fear for your health and well-being and feel concerned about what will happen over the long term. Since the two of you run a household together, you've probably grown accustomed to certain roles and responsibilities. Your partner may wonder, will it happen? What will happen if we cannot play those normal roles that we do? Whether it means earning an income, caring for the children, paying for bills, preparing for meals, or the actual day-to-day activities of life. Breast cancer can intensify whatever patterns of communication existed in your relationship. So if you don't have a good relationship, strongly seek out support. If you don't have a good communication with your spouse or with your children, seek out support. Find people that will help with that communication and get that communication going. I don't know if you've been watching the news here recently, but Sandra Lee, who is with Semi Homemade Cooking, she is dating, I think, Governor Cuomo from New York. She had her procedure done yesterday. I don't know if you saw her on Good Morning America, where she had mentioned that she had had the breast cancer. She had the lumpectomy. Well, she ended up then going and having the full radical mastectomy and had it yesterday. And I thought it was so cool, and I brought the picture, and I think I have it in here, where, yes, I do. Sandra Lee, famous chef and TV personality, had her procedure yesterday. And how her family was involved in this. And I just wanted to kind of, this is important for you, and as you go through your next procedure. She posted something on Facebook. She said, okay, this is from her sister. We got an update on Sandra. They started out in the middle of the night. She was up at 4 a.m. and at the hospital to prep for surgery. Governor Cuomo drove Sandra and her sister Kimber to the hospital. She was worrying more about her sister and the nursing staff than herself, making sure that they were comfortable. Did Kimmy need a sweater? Was it going to be cold? Were the technician's shoes comfortable enough as much as they're going to be standing? Did they all have breakfast? Do they have places that they need to go? She and Governor Cuomo chatted with the medical staff and thanked them for all their care and concern. After Sandra was stepped into the operating gown, the governor joined her dressed in scrubs with a neat tie underneath, and I have a picture of it. When the medical staff rolled the gurney in to wheel Sandra off to the OR, she said, no, I'd rather walk. And she wanted to walk with her sister and the governor. The governor walked by her side down those long hospital corridors with her sister. If it's possible to look like the red carpet ready in scrubs, they were definitely that. Sandra was in the OR. Governor Cuomo stayed by her side until she fell asleep. Now that's probably not typical, unless you're married to the governor. But then later on that day, they said, we've got another update. Sandra is out of the recovery room and has been taken to her hospital room. It seems like all the nurses have grown very attached to her. Her sister Kimber propped up Sandra's pillows that was brought from home. You've got to have the right pillow. And so I think it's very important that right now, here she's going through that, and she's showing how she's involving her family and her sister, and you can kind of see, I'll leave this here, but you can see where she must be getting ready to be prepped or waiting to go in, and that's, I know that look. I know that look. And how she's getting ready. It's important to have your family as involved. So, I mean, there's lots of things that I can encourage you with. There's lots of things that I can tell you to do, but the most important thing is just don't keep it to yourself. Reach out. If you're going through it now, if you've gone through it in the past like we have, and that you can be there for other people, I just encourage you to just, sometimes less is more. The less you say when somebody's going through it, the better, and let them talk. So I'm proud of each and every one of you. I'm thankful for the two sisters that are walking with your sister through this, and I'm just thankful for PRMA and the staff of that. They just get us to the point where we can look
Fabulous.